Hi, Chad Lang here. In this video, I want to talk about brainwashing. And what is brainwashing? So a number of years ago, I'm dating this girl in the church, and I'm having this discussion with her where I bring up how I think a lot of church members have been indoctrinated into the religious beliefs. As soon as I said the word indoctrinated, she came back with, "You mean brainwashed?" She said it just like that, too, in that Lois Griffin Family Guy voice. "You mean brainwashed?" Uh, and you could tell she was obviously not very impressed, because that's a common criticism that members of the church get from people who are irreligious, is that members of the church have been brainwashed, or members of lots of religions are brainwashed. And it's like, well, we read our scriptures, we study our scriptures, many of us go to university and get degrees, and many Latter-day Saints are doctors, lawyers, teachers, principals, FBI agents. How can you say that these people are brainwashed? Are they not intelligent? Are they dumb? My 4-year bachelor's degree doesn't say that I'm a dumb person, so I'm actually going to get into brainwashing, because you know what? I think that defense is fair. So we're going to be getting into what brainwashing actually is and how it works. So I have here Freedom of Mind by Stephen Hassan, America's leading cult expert. And he joined the Unification Church when he was a young man. He was very idealistic, and he was looking for answers. And he was looking for a moral group to be a part of, and he found the Unification Church. And he started heavily recruiting for them, and he talks about his experience with that in this book. So in chapter 2, on page 15, what is destructive social influence? While I was in the Moon cult, my friends and family told me I had been brainwashed, that I was under mind control. And he puts those in quotes. I associated mind control with being handcuffed, tortured, and interrogated under bright lights, and I knew that hadn't happened to me. So when people called me a brainwashed robot, I thought they were persecuting me for my beliefs. Their negative comments reinforced my commitment to the group. In this edition, I've replaced the terms mind control and brainwash with the more current phrases social influence or destructive influence. This is in keeping with new research that shows that humans are extraordinarily sensitive to social cues, which has been a factor in our species' success, but which can also be used against us as individuals. Robert J. Lifton's 1961 book, Thought Reform and the Psychology of Totalism, provided my first frame of reference for understanding social influence during my intervention. So we're going to get right into Thought Reform and the Psychology of Totalism and see what that has to say. Hang on here. Okay, Google. Thought Reform and the Psychology of Totalism. Here we go. We want to go to the Wikipedia page. I just love doing this. Okay, so Thought Reform and the Psychology of Totalism, a study of brainwashing in China, is a nonfiction book by psychiatrist Robert J. Lifton on the psychology of mind control. Lifton's research for the book began in 1953 with a series of interviews with American servicemen who had been held captive during the Korean War. In addition to interviews with 25 Americans, Lifton also interviewed 15 Chinese who had fled their homeland after having been subjected to indoctrination in Chinese universities. From these interviews, which in some cases occurred regularly for over a year, Lifton identified the tactics used by Chinese communists to cause drastic shifts in one's opinions and personality and brainwash American soldiers into making demonstrably false assertions. And then, it goes on to say it was published in 1961, blah, blah, blah. Main points. In the book, Lifton outlines the 8 criteria for thought reform. So the first one is milieu control. And milieu is a French word meaning environment, I'm pretty sure. Correct me if I'm wrong. This involves the control of information and communication both within the environment and ultimately within the individual, resulting in a significant degree of isolation from society at large. Number 2, mystical manipulation. The manipulation of experiences that appear spontaneous but is in fact planned and orchestrated by the group or its leaders in order to demonstrate divine authority, spiritual advancement, or some exceptional talent or insight that sets the leader and or group apart from humanity, and that allows reinterpretation of historical events, scripture, and other experiences. Coincidences and happenstance oddities are interpreted as omens or prophecies. Number 3, demand for purity. The world is viewed as black and white, and the members are constantly exhorted to conform to the ideology of the group and strive for perfection. The induction of guilt and or shame is a powerful control device used here. Number 4, confession. Sins, as defined by the group, are to be confessed either to a personal monitor or publicly to the group. There is no confidentiality. Members' sins, attitudes, and faults are discussed and exploited by the leaders. Number 5, sacred science. The group's doctrine or ideology is considered to be the ultimate truth, beyond all questioning or dispute. Truth is not to be found outside the group. The leader, as the spokesman for God or for all of humanity, is likewise above criticism. Number 6, loading the language. The group interprets or uses words and phrases in new ways so that often the outside world does not understand. This jargon consists of thought-terminating cliches which serve to alter members' thought processes to conform to the group's way of thinking. Number 7, doctrine over person, or doctrine over self. Members' personal experiences are subordinated to the sacred science, and any contrary experiences must be denied or reinterpreted to fit the ideology of the group. Number 8, dispensing of existence. The group has the prerogative to decide who has the right to exist and who does not. This is usually not literal, but means that those in the outside world are not saved, unenlightened, unconscious, and they must be converted to the group's ideology. If they do not join the group or are critical of the group, then they must be rejected by the members. Thus, the outside world loses all credibility. In conjunction, should any member leave the group, he or she must be rejected also. A thought-terminating cliche. We're just going to get into that real quick, and then I'm done here. A thought-terminating cliche, also known as a semantic stop sign, a thought stopper, bumper sticker, logic, or cliche thinking, is a form of loading language commonly used to quell cognitive dissonance. I'm not going to get into what that is right now. Depending on the context in which the phrase or cliche is used, it may actually be valid and not qualify as thought-terminating. It does not qualify as such when its application intends to dismiss dissent or justify fallacious logic. I'm not going to read any more of that. So that's what a thought-terminating cliche is. The book is Thought Reform and the Psychology of Totalism by Dr. Robert Lifton, and you also have Freedom of Mind by Stephen Hassan, America's cult-leading expert, and that's what brainwashing is in a nutshell. So you can decide whether or not your church or what you've been taught fits those 8 points. And as I was reading them during my brother's wedding, my little sister who served a mission in Utah says, "That sounds like Utah, that sounds like Utah, that sounds like Utah, and that sounds like Utah." Yeah, and you know what? It sounds like the student young single adult congregations that I attended for 9 years. And that should tell you something. You're only making my point, and she's the true believer. So there you go.